All right, we are live. It is 6:32 in the morning, San Diego time. Firdosh at Drife is coming on. Firdosh, are you out of Dubai? Am I reading that right?
I'm based out of Dubai, but currently I'm in Bangalore in India, where I'm basically headquartered.
Got it. You guys are in Bangalore. Okay, cool. Um, so for folks who haven't seen you, and there's actually a lot of folks in the greater DePIN community, I've been asking around, and they haven't heard of Drife. So I'm super excited to have you on here. Would you tell us?
Thank you.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what Drife does, and then we'll kind of jump into some of the details.
So, very basic of what Drive stands for is, we all have heard about this concept, imagine Uber on blockchain, and that's who we are. We are a decentralized ride-hailing platform, which is not just a white paper, it's a live project. We're live in Bangalore in India. So, yeah, for a very brief summary, we are a platform which connects driver and rider directly with each other without a middleman in place.
Awesome. Okay, so basically like an Uber blockchain. And if I'm getting it right, you guys actually have a fair amount of action already. I think it was started in, let's see, November 2021, something like that. And you guys have
Correct. So
some.
we
Good.
we did our pilot launch in November 2021,
Hmm.
just after everything went a little bit normal after COVID. We started with 25 drivers at the pilot launch. From there, we have scaled to 25,000 plus drivers in our platform. So that was quite a long journey that we had.
Yeah. And in fact, I was looking at the website, I think last night, you guys are at 30,000. You got 100,000 riders signed up and
Yes.
250,000 completed rides. So, unlike a lot of projects in the deep in space, you guys actually have some kind of active work going on. It's not just a thing where you're saying,
Yes.
"Hey, this will be here." It's actually already here. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So one of the big questions I've got is I've seen a couple interviews with you now. I'm super excited about the whole thing. Is why do you think that Drife hasn't gotten really at least to the U.S. Shores where there's this really hopping deep in market? You know, I just found out about you. Max and I run Golden Hawks. We're pretty much the kind of premier consultancy in the space. And we're like, huh, how did we not know about these guys? So tell me a little bit about kind of the journey to to global domination that you guys are on.
The idea of what Drive is at the end of the day, very traditional business where, there are taxis and human involved. And that's where we were like very low key in our approach of what we want to achieve. First we have to actually prove the whole concept of what Drive stands for. But a lot of time we have heard this people saying the concept of imagining Uber on blockchain will always stay as a white paper. It cannot become a reality. So we had our own approach of, proving the concept first, having it live in a city where we are operational, and it consumes a lot of your energy when, you're running something which is operational heavy. This is like a very ops heavy business, and that's why we were not very active on the Web3 side of it, but doing the real business.
Yeah.
And I guess now is the time when we are talking about, okay, we have done Bangalore, we're scaling Bangalore, and the next thing is we go outside Bangalore in India and other part of the world, and that's when will be more present in different part of the globe, and people will talk more about it. But for us, it was to stay low key till the time we prove the whole concept of what Drive stand for and what we want to achieve, and not just keep talking about it and creating hype around the concept and not have any proof in place. So that was our approach actually.
Okay. And you guys are on Polygon still? And the
Yes.
last I read, you guys are thinking about doing your own blockchain because you were having problems with a blockchain that wouldn't kind of scale to the things that you guys wanted to do.
Correct. So again, talking about specifically mobility as a space, there are so many primitives that mobility requires to actually interact with the blockchain, and you always face certain issues. And that's when we started exploring to have an infrastructure layer that solves the issue for us. Specifically, a lot that has to do with geolocations and things move. A lot of information that we have to interact with blockchain. You need a backend or Oracle in place to communicate, and that's when we started exploring. But as of now, yes, we are on Polygon.
Okay. Cool. On the geolocation side, there's another project that Max and I work with that might be of interest to you, GeoNet, and they do GNSS, and they're actually just launching into India. That might be they do a centimeter accuracy. So it might be super
I
useful
can
for you guys. So
Yeah, so even like, we are exploring few other projects who are also in the same space doing things with geolocation, maps, and looking into what's the best that we can adopt and use to at least achieve the whole purpose of decentralization that we want to.
yeah. Now, one of the big things that came through in reading about this is that you guys are really driven about this idea of freedom for the driver and the rider to make choices about their fare. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it seems kind of unusual in the modern like capitalist age of just like, oh, we're going to extract as much money as we can out of this thing. Walk me through kind of how the whole thing works.
Correct. Correct. So, when we started working on the whole idea of Drive, we realized the whole ecosystem of ride sharing space is so much controlled by centralized party where you and I cannot make our own choices except the fact that I'm telling the platform where I'm going. Everything is decided by the platform. And that very basic of freedom that was taken away from us in the name of convenience has caused a lot of trouble that driver and rider face today. So what we did, we basically combined the world that existed before technological disruption, when people go out on the roads, ask a cab driver if you want to go somewhere, and you used to negotiate with the driver. Now we have combined this with the technology, where we use this incomplete information mechanism of auction theory,
Hmm.
where we as a platform obviously determine the base fare that someone should be paying and allow the user to add his own search. So you can decide how much you're willing to pay on top of what a base fare is. So you, instead of I telling you how much you should be paying, you decide as a user how much you're willing to pay for that ride. Once you give the fare, say for a $10 ride, you say, okay, it's raining outside, I won't get a driver, I'm willing to pay a $15 to the driver. Then
Yep.
you'll see more drivers interested in accepting your ride instead of you keep on waiting and trying all the platform and not getting any driver.
Right.
Now, on the other side, we also allow driver to give a counter code. A driver can give you a discounted ride or accept it as it is or give you a premium also on the ride. And then you see a list of different drivers to choose from. Now, you as a user make your own choice for what is best for you. Our personal preference is never taken into consideration, and we end up, that's why, in that vicious circle of keep looking for a driver and not getting what you need. Now your decision can be based on how much time a driver will take or how much fare he's asking, or maybe sometime when I'm traveling late at night I would prefer a driver who's highly rated. Now there comes the power back to me where I am deciding what I want, and I'm not stuck in that whole vicious circle of multiple time requesting a ride and not getting what I want.
Huh. So there's definitely a shift in how we kind of do it currently, and as you were like a former Uber power user, I think you had 5,000 rides, like you used it a bunch, and this in
Yeah.
some way came out of that. And maybe it's worth doing a little bit of the backstory on you as well. Is that I think you started off chartered accountant, a CA in 2016, so
Yes.
really like got a head for the books and understand the numbers, which is always really important with these blockchain projects, not just to have a kind of YOLO guess out there. You did some industrial training with Microsoft India in 2015. A little bit before that, you did some financial reporting for a hedge fund. So really like kind of figuring out all of the back end parts of running a blockchain and not just coming in with a kind of a glorious idea and hoping it worked. And then this thing came along. I thought this great question that you asked yourself was, how ambitious can I be? So I guess the next part is, do you think you're being ambitious enough at this point, or do you guys have your sights set higher? No, it's you, Surya, and Mudit are the three that are co-founding
Yeah.
it. Okay, yeah. What's
Yeah.
what's kind of next for you guys? What are you excited about?
So I guess the next step for us at Drive is to go to more city because we work on a whole new model of decentralizing operations also for ride sharing space where we will not be running Drive operations. You want to run Drive operation in your city, you can do that. And we have got a lot of application. We have 90 plus application across the globe to run Drive operation. That's
Hmm.
kind of interest that we have received. So I guess for us, the next steps are to launch in more cities in India. We already have identified few cities in India that we are working to launch next 6 months. We also have applied for two licenses outside India. So the real world cab aggregator license is something that we have applied, obviously because of some NDAs in place. I cannot keep the name of those cities outside India, but that's what we want to do. We want to
Sure.
be a platform who's able to scale faster because of the community that we're able to build, and the people who believe that, Uber and other platform are not just what kind of a duopoly that exists. There can be a platform that can exist where community can participate and be a part of the whole industry. So that's what we want to do. We want to go to more cities, and give that whole power back to drivers and riders across the globe, because this is not a problem that I initially thought is a problem only in Bangalore in India. It's a global problem. As we started digging deeper, we realized this is the same story of every other driver you meet in any part of the world. They're gonna tell you the story of how they feel stuck in this, and how much they're controlled. And that's what we want. Like every driver across the globe should have access to the income that they deserve.
It's interesting. I mean, once I found it, I looked on my Apple phone. I was like, oh, they've got an iOS app, and I couldn't find it. And I don't know if you guys don't have it on the US store. And then I was like, oh, I'll look on my Android phone. And I couldn't find it there.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah, so we
out
have
yet,
a
which is exciting.
geo restriction. Yeah, we have
Yeah.
a geo restriction at this point.
So one of the cool things you talked about just now that I want to make sure we expand on a little bit is this idea of franchising an area. I know that in the U.S. in the DePIN community here, people are super psyched to be early on projects, and I'm imagining they're going to be pretty psyched to say, "Hey, I could franchise my city, or I could franchise a couple cars or a fleet." Can you talk me through maybe the three ways that people can participate as on the user side? So drivers, franchisers, car fleet.
Yeah, so there are different levels in which you as a community member can participate. The first level is obviously when you become a franchisee owner to run drive operation, and you take part in getting drivers and riders onboarded in the system. But as a community, we have a whole of a delegation program in place, where if you have DRF token, you will be able to delegate your DRF to the franchisee owner, because DRF token get locked for you to get access to the franchisee. When you delegate your token, you then become part of the whole city DAO that we open up every time a city goes in operation. But it's not just about being part of the city DAO and participating and proposing change, voting, but you also get access to the APY that a franchisee decides to share with the community, who's gonna put their DRF as a delegation. So you can actually get a revenue share from the real world operation of that city when you participate. Both goes for anybody, like driver riders who own DRF, they can delegate their DRF and become the part of a city operation.
Got it. And we skipped past the part where you guys make money, which I forgot. You guys just charge a subscription fee, right? It's a subscription fee for drivers
Yes,
and riders to use the
yes,
service.
correct.
Okay. And that leaves, if it sounds like it leaves a fair amount on the table to be split out between drivers and riders as far as where the profit is, so that a lot of that stuff doesn't have to go back to a centralized organization.
Correct.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how kind of driven you guys are about this idea of freedom and people making their own choices and having a right to earn, as much as they should earn. I think it's a really cool thing that we're going to see more and more in a lot of these decentralized projects.
Yeah.
The last, or maybe not the last thing, but the last thing for today that I saw that I thought was pretty interesting is that you guys have served in the quarterly report. It says you served 1,732 support team calls. That's pretty unusual in a DePIN project to actually have a support team doing calls. Can you walk me through how you thought about that, and then what a typical support call is?
What, and this is a problem specifically in the ride sharing space also. If I want to get in touch with someone or something goes wrong, it's so difficult to get in touch with the team who's managing operation. It's very important that because they are human involved, we are not just talking about something which is a digital layer on cloud. There are people involved, there are car involved, there's infrastructure involved, and anything can go wrong at any point in time, and there has to be support that should be present there if a driver or rider is in distress. And that's where we were very sure that there has to be a local support team that has to exist to take care of certain issues. The app is developing. Sometimes people faces issues with application. Sometimes driver is an issue. Rider face issue. Sometimes, driver and rider get into some kind of dispute, and there has to be a dispute resolution team. And, it has to be there. You cannot let go of those things with something which has so much to do with humans. And so we do have our local team. We have a team of 8 people who manages different, driver, rider support, and they do take care of calls.
Oh, it's amazing. I love to see it. I think that's one of the things that's missing from a lot of these kind of Web3 deep in explorations is that we're trying to move away too fast from humans. and not making sure they're included in the process. And I think maybe AI will take over some of that, but that's probably a topic for another call. Firdosh, thanks a ton for coming on. Where can folks find more about Drife?
On our website, that's the very basic where you can find more about Drive, what we are doing, but we're very active on Telegram and Twitter. You can find us in both the places.
Okay. Ripping. Well, thanks a ton for coming on. Super excited to get to talk to you. Stick around after the show and we'll talk a little bit more. But thanks for sharing and excited to see where this thing goes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nick.